Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my fountain pen video. Before I start, I do want to say that I am definitely no expert at fountain pens, but I have had several requests over the last few months to film like a fountain pen specific video to share like my favorite pens, what pens I use, what inks I use, things like that. So I was kind of hesitant, like I said, because I'm definitely not a pro at fountain pens. I'm sure there are lots of better videos out there, but since you guys have requested and re-requested this video, I will just share what I know. And if I get things wrong, I'm sorry. I absolutely love using fountain pens. As you can see, I do have quite a few. I don't really splash out and buy like super expensive pens just because I tend to not really take care of my pens that great. I have like quite a heavy hand, so I'm always worried of like you know, damaging the nibs and things like that. So I think the most priciest fountain pen I own is this one. It's a Pilot capless, which I think in the US is called the Vanishing Point. Very sort of common amongst fountain pen users in the planner community. It basically is a clicky fountain pen, so there's no lid, and it is, you know, it's definitely not one of the most expensive ones, but I think it was like £100, maybe even more, I'm not sure. But yeah, I do like it. Could I have done without it? Yes. Once I received it, I kind of realized that it's a great pen, but not my favorite. So I might kind of clean it up and resell it, I'm not sure. But other than that, I've, you know, started off with super cheap fountain pens from Amazon. I think this one was like a couple of quid. I've purchased some of these from AliExpress. These ones as well from Amazon, Pilot Kikuno. Super love these. I've got two of them. Haven't used them in a while actually, but I do really like them. They're also just a few quid if you're, you know, kind of wanting to just start out with fountain pens. I have I then kind of sort of moved on to Twisby Eco Pens, which I do really love. As you can see, I have several. Actually, before that, I would say I purchased this Lamy Safari Pen, which I really love. This is in the petrol color. I think it was a limited edition, so I'm not sure if it's still available, but yeah, I have a couple of Lamy pens. That's not a Lamy pen actually, I think that's a AliExpress one. This is a Lamy, it says on there. And then yes, I went on to purchase like several Twisby Eco Pens. I just love the way they write. They have like a massive barrel, so you can sort of fill up a good amount of ink. Let's see, I already talked about those. Then I have like my absolute favorite pens, which are D-Like brand. I purchased mine, I want to say AliExpress, but I honestly don't remember at this point. And I've had them for several years now and I just love them. I have them in the extra fine and they're just beautiful pens, beautifully made. They are metal, so they feel really heavy and very like weighty. I would say they are like, they feel and look like the most expensive fountain pens I have, but I think I purchased them when they were at like maybe £7 or £8, not expensive at all. And then I did purchase a new D-Like fountain pen recently, but unfortunately this one is just does not compare. It's like very lightweight plastic. It kind of looks very beautiful, but it just doesn't have the same feel as an expensive, you know, like these actually feel like an expensive pen. But having said that, the nib is the same, so it writes just as well as the others. So I do have those, and then I have like just another beautiful like purple resin pen from AliExpress, which I've had some problems with this with the ink flow. It kind of writes a bit inconsistently, so I kind of need to see if I can clear that up a little bit. That's not a fountain pen. And then I do have some Correcto Sport pens as well. They are, as you can see, very tiny, but very cute. They actually write beautifully, and if you use the cap, then it kind of becomes a full-size pen. Otherwise it's very small, and I actually can't write. I don't like writing without the cap on. Oops. But yeah, you get different colors. You can choose like gold or silver, and then you can choose the little clip for it as well. So those are the pens that I have. I have like a ton of different inks, but mainly I use a lot of diamine inks, either just like these little bottles, or I have like some of the shimmer ink. And then this is sort of my, I would say, my favorite ink, at least at the moment, which is this Iroshizuku Yamabudo color. Beautiful sort of purpley maroony color, which you'll see when I write with it. So the very first thing I guess I would mention about fountain pens is you get two different types of pens, sort of three, but let's go with two. You get bottled pens that require bottled ink and pens that require ink cartridges. And I have a mixture, because even amongst like bottled fountain pens, sort of like fountain pens that require bottled ink, there is sort of like a subcategory. So let's go through that. Okay, so these are the cartridge pens that I own. They are the Lamy Safari, the two Pilot Kikuno pens, and my Coeco Sport pens. So with a cartridge pen, you do have to buy cartridges specific to the pens, because they do look different in terms of size and even like the way they are kind of made. So you'll see immediately the size difference there. This is made for, you know, this Coeco Sport pen. This Lamy has, you know, is bigger, it's got much more ink, but even the way it kind of looks is different. You wouldn't be able to use one in the other because of the size, basically. And all you do with let's see if any of my cartridges would fit in here actually. So that one doesn't even go in actually. Let's see the Lamy one. Nope. So I would have to look up which inks cartridges are suitable, like size wise, for these, and buy specific to them. So I'm pretty sure all of these ones are inked up, but if they're not, well, this one's kind of empty, so I will show you how you change this out. Basically, let's put a gray cartridge in here. One thing I do want to say about obviously using ink cartridges is that you will have a lot of plastic like waste. This is a single-use piece of plastic. Once this is used up, it goes in the bin. So in terms of like being environmentally friendly, cartridges are probably not the best option. Also in terms of size, you can see the amount of ink you get per usage, you know, is tiny. It's, you know, you're going to be constantly changing these out. So actually, even though it might on surface seem like buying bottled ink is more of an investment than cartridges, you do get more value for your money buying, you know, a bottle. But these, let me change this out. So I'll put that in the bin, and all you do is you literally just pierce it, and that just pokes a hole in that ink, and it will oops, where's the body for that? Kind of, generally I don't need to wait a while, and I don't actually because I know that this already had grey ink in it before, I haven't washed it out. But otherwise I would, before I kind of put my cartridge in, I would just run some warm water through this until it runs clear, so all the previous ink color that's kind of in here comes out, and then you get the color that's in here. Otherwise, you can imagine if you've got black ink and then you're trying to use a pink cartridge, it's going to come, you know, very kind of dark and cloudy and not nice for a while. So it's always better to kind of clean your fountain pens. But with these pens, it's very, very easy to clean, which I would say is one of the plus sides of having a cartridge pen. Yeah, you just run water through this for a few minutes until it runs clear. Then you just pop that in there, twist, and usually it's ready to go immediately. And if not, you kind of just leave it. I would pop the lid on and leave it like either upside down or even just on its side for a while to kind of get the ink flowing. But there you go. This is an extra fine. A lot of my pens will be extra fine. Let me get a blank page actually so we can, let's use this. So this is the Coeco Sport in extra fine. And like I said, I mostly do use extra fine or fine pen nibs, fine nibbed pens rather. This is also extra fine. I'm not sure this is even inked, so yeah, this might not have any ink in it. That's fine. I don't keep them inked up, all of them, especially cartridge pens, because I have noticed that if I was to put a cartridge in here and not use it for a while, for some reason the cartridge just empties. It kind of dries out, so it's a bit of a waste. So I actually only ink these up when I know I'm going to use it. So at the moment I'm not using that one or this one, but I will now that I've inked it. I'm pretty sure this one also is not inked up. Yeah, so like I said, I don't want to waste ink cartridges, and they're so easy to refill and very, very quick. I will have, you know, washed and dried this thoroughly. So yeah, sorry, I think I forgot to mention, once you've kind of washed this, you do have to let it dry. I usually leave it like on a towel like overnight, and then I put it away, so that when I want to ink it, it's ready to go. I just pop the cartridge in, and that's that. Same with the Lamy Safari, except obviously the ink size, the cartridges are much bigger and more generous. I absolutely love this color at the moment. It is the turquoise. So this, I would say, is my favorite pen. Would I say? I would say it's number 2. Let's go for, this is my favorite, like second favorite pen ever, fountain pen. I just love how it writes. It's beautiful no matter what color ink you use. I've never had any skipping problems. It's very affordable, beautiful to hold, very lightweight. Yeah, great first fountain pen option for those of you who, you know, want to try out cartridges, pens, but very good quality. I would go for a Lamy Safari. So cartridge pens, again, like I said, very easy to clean. Sort of minimal washing of the, you know, pen is required. Very easy to change the cartridges, very quick to do it. I would say the other type of pens, the converter pens, is much more of a ritual, you know. You have to like make sure your table's clear of anything. You're not, you know, in case there's any ink spillages, you don't have to worry about that with cartridges. But of course it is, you know, not cost effective, and also in terms of plastic waste is not the best. Okay, so let's move on to piston pens. So like I said, there are sort of 2 types of piston pens. The Twisby Ecos are what I guess have they are, like, I would say, I think they're called piston filler pens, in that they come with the converter built into the pen already. So what that means is, I'll show you in my favorite pen, my D-like fountain pen, which is has a converter basically. So instead of a cartridge, you have this little mechanism here which you fill with ink. Now, different pens will have different sizes. You can see here, again, this is like not a ton of ink in comparison to the Twisby Eco. So I guess, you know, there's plus and minuses for that. It's great in the sense that you can then refill with a different color if you wanted. But yeah, if you wanted to use the same color consistently, you'd kind of have to, you know, refill this quite often. Now, it's not really super hard to fill, but let me show you how I do it. I'm going to just move things out of the way. So I always put something down in case there are spillages, which, you know, sometimes they are. This is the same ink that I have in here, which is the Diamine Cerise. Now you can actually buy, I don't have one, but you can buy a syringe that you kind of then manually just, you know, pull ink up and insert it into here, which is probably a cleaner way of doing it, because as you can see, this isn't very tall, and at the moment I'm still at the top level of my ink, so I don't have to go too down. But once my ink starts like getting to the bottom, I'm gonna have trouble filling this. So at that point I probably will have to get like the syringe to fill it. But anyway, at the moment I will empty this to show you guys. You basically just twist it. That's all you do. You twist it, and if you were to refill this, you would submerge up to here in the bottle, and you just twist, and as it twists, it kind of suctions the ink up. And how I do it is to avoid sort of air bubbles. I go up a bit, down a bit, up a bit, down a bit, like that, to try and pull ink up and push out air bubbles. You know, just do that a few times until you've got a satisfactory amount. And if you feel like actually, you know, it's full of air, you can just empty it back out again into your bottle and start again. So let me show you. So I go up a bit, down a little bit. Okay. And before I do anything else, I'm going to put the lid back on this and give that a quick wipe around the edges. And you can see messy fingers already. There are a couple of air bubbles in there, but you know, I'm not too bothered. I could actually push them out manually now if I wanted to. But yeah, I'm okay. There we go. So that's how much ink I have in there, and then what I do is basically just push that into here, and that's it. Twist that back on, and I will show you how this pen writes with this ink. Now, that is one thing that I wanted to mention to you guys. So this is the D-Like in extra fine. This is definitely my favorite fountain pen, just because overall the way it writes, the extra fine is actually extra fine. You can see even with the Lamy Safari, it's a little bit thicker than extra fine. I would say it's more on the fine side. But what was I going to say? Yeah, what I was going to say is it does depend very much on what which pen you use, which nib you use, which ink you use, as to how and actually even which paper you use, as to how your, you know, fountain pen is going to write. Because I've seen some people use you know, the Twisby Eco and get a much thinner line than I do, and I think obviously that's to do with the pressure, but also the paper that they use is different to the paper I use, and the ink. So I didn't know this when I first started, you know, buying and collecting fountain pens and inks, but there is such a thing known as wet pens and wet ink, and I have this Diamine Onyx black ink, which I actually just don't use anymore, because even when I fill an extra fine pen with it, it comes out really thick, as if it's like a medium nib. And I think it's just because, sorry, this is a bit dusty. You can see I definitely don't use it anymore. This ink is, I would say, super wet, which means it kind of spreads on the paper a little bit, not to the point where it messes up your handwriting, but it's almost as if it converts extra fine nib into, you know, you'd get like a thicker line with it basically. So there is such a thing as wet inks and wet pens. So if you combine a wet pen, which all the Ecos, the Twisby Ecos, are sort of known as wet pens, which means even if you buy an extra fine, like I think, let me find an extra fine one. So this is an extra fine one. You can see it's definitely not as fine as the Delight. It does kind of have a thicker feel to it, and that's because these pens are known as wet pens. And then I think the ink that I have in here is the Iroshizuku, which the Pilot inks are also, the Pilot Iroshizuku inks are also known as wet inks. So in one sense, if I'm trying to achieve an extra fine effect, I've used the two worst possible combinations for that. But it's okay because I kind of love the cap color, and I love that it, you know, sort of matches the ink. But it's something I might use for quotes or journaling. It's not really something I would use for my daily plans or like my to-do list. I would feel like that's really too thick for my liking. So that's something to kind of watch out for if you're, you know, I would say if you're just kind of going for, you know, a low budget cartridge pen or whatever, that's probably not a massive consideration for you. But if you're investing in a pen, definitely check out reviews and see what people say, you know, what it kind of writes like. So yeah, let's the other thing, sorry, I want to mention before we move on is that I do have a lot of sort of shimmer inks. So you can see here it's kind of got that kind of glittery effect. And I will actually I have it. I did actually sort of swatch them in my Hobonichi the other day. So you can see here the Enchanted Ocean, the Lilac Satin, and the Peacock Flare. Now these I used a brush to get it. So I just dipped a brush in my ink and went across. But I don't really get these shimmering effects when I use pens, when I use it in my fountain pens, because my fountain pens are all extra fine, which kind of, I think, prevents the shimmering details, the ink, the shimmering particles rather, coming through. So I do believe this one actually has the Enchanted Ocean. Let's see. No, I don't think this one. This one looks like it's just black. Anyway, if I can find it, I will show you. But basically, it does not shimmer at all. So I think unless you've got a medium or a broad nib, where the particles can actually flow through the sort of nib, it's not going to come through. So that's kind of a shame, but I've found like other ways of using them in terms of like just let me show you here. I don't think I used them. Anyway, I kind of use them just in journaling, you know. But yeah, that is a shame, but that's one of the kind of issues you'll come across with a fine or an extra fine nib. Okay, so on to the Twisby Eco Pens. Now, these are piston pens, like I said, but they are like, they have their converters built in. So there is no taking out that little bit that I showed you. You know, this part does not come out in a Twisby Eco Pen. This is inbuilt in the pen, which when I first got mine, I just couldn't figure out how to undo the pen to try and refill it. So I did have to like look it up, because I kept trying to unscrew it and it just wouldn't come apart, and I just didn't know what I was doing wrong. But yeah, they all come with the piston inbuilt, and you fill them up in exactly the same way, except you put the nib in. So I'm pretty sure, I hope, this is the aqua blue that I have in this one. And let's try and give it a go at filling it up a little bit more, because I do actually use this pen a lot. It's a gorgeous color ink. I don't always try and match like the color of the pen to the ink, but it looks like here I have done that. So yeah, let's show you. So it is a twisty cap, and this is actually the screwy bit. So you just would put the pen in and start twisting this section here. That's going to push all the ink out. Whoopsie. That is why. Oops, that's good. That caught most of it. Okay, I'm back. That was exactly why I don't have like my planners around when I'm filling. I've never actually dropped a bottle like that before, but there you go, sod's law that it would happen on camera. But yeah, here you can see the sort of twisty mechanism. As you do that, it's going to suck the ink into the barrel here. That is as far as it goes, so you're not going to get the full capacity. This part is part of the mechanism, so you would just do that to squeeze all the ink out. And then let's try this again without dropping the bottle. You put the fountain pen in. I normally put it in all the way. I think this is where the ink gets pulled up from. Yeah, I just submerge it and I give it a go and see, is there ink coming up or no? And you can see there's a lot of air bubbles, so I'm gonna squeeze that back out again and do my trick of up down up down. I have found the more slow you kind of pull the ink up, the less air bubbles you will get. Okay, let's put that aside and give that a wipe. And you'll see this is also a Twisby extra fine, writes beautifully. None of these pens really kind of bleed through at all. You can see some of the juicier ones have, you know, a little bit more of a shadowing than the others, but I don't actually yeah, get any bleed through. But this is a good example of, you know, using fountain pens in like the Stalogy at least, and also the Hobonichi, is that you do have to give it time to dry, because otherwise yeah, it smears, not, you know, it transfers to the other side of the page. That's just one of the sort of annoyances, I guess, with working with fountain pens, is that you cannot just write and then go, like, turn the page. You do have to give it time to dry. Again, it depends on how wet the ink is. So if you're using it, you know, sort of fast drying ink, extra fine nib, it might dry quicker. If you have like a broader nib, you know, obviously there's going to be more ink, more saturation, more, yeah, like it's just going to take longer to dry. I do believe the Delight pens are pretty quick in drying, because they are not, I would say, like wet pens. Even if the ink is wet, I would say that's kind of a good time. So there you can see like very minimal smearing, which is another reason I do like to use these, even like in my day-to-day planning, writing lists, things like that. Okay, so now that I've kind of showed you guys how to use them, I will quickly show you how to wash these. They do take longer to wash than, you know, cartridge pens. Sometimes like these Twisby Eco Pens really take like 10-15 minutes to really get clean. So let me just go get some water in this jar and I will show you. Okay, so I've just got a little jar of warm water here. Now this would normally be my like bathroom sink, and I would change out the water between each wash, but I just wanted to show you quickly here how I wash them. You wash the sort of inbuilt pistons and the normal pistons in exactly the same way. So that's what I'll just show you how you do it here. I'll actually show you in a clean one first. Actually, that's not very clean, but you do it in exactly the same way. Look at the state of my hands. As you are, you know, when you're filling the ink from the bottle, you're just twisting out to push out all the ink, and then you're sucking some of the water in. So you've got water in there, and then that's going to come out. Push that out, you can see, and then you would do the same thing repeatedly. So you want to suck up clean water. You don't always have to give it a shake. You kind of go in, out, and you can see, even though there was like just a drop of ink in there, how much this is actually, not so pretty, but how much that's you know. And basically you just do this over and over again, in, out, until, so now I would rinse, you know, I would kind of change the water in the sink, refill it, and keep doing this until this pen, you know, until you push out basically clean water, and then you know it's clean, and you let that dry overnight, and then it's ready to be refilled. This one, as you can see, just goes on and on. It's just more and more black ink coming out of it. And the Twisby pen you do in exactly the same way, except obviously you would submerge, you know, the pen, and kind of, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to suck up any of the black ink into here, but you kind of just twist clean until the barrel is completely clean, until all these bits, like this part of the fountain pen is clean, and basically, you know, you've got no more pink coming out into the water. It's just clear water going in and clear water coming out. And like I said, they do take a long time. I personally feel like it can take 15 to 20 minutes. This is just from that one tiny drop of ink that was in here that I already kind of pushed out anyway. But now to just kind of clean it, I am trying to get like areas where there's clear water, but yeah, I will just finish off cleaning that up in the bathroom. And that is basically how you clean fountain pens. And then, like I said, you let them dry thoroughly before trying to refill them with another ink. Okay, to sort of sum up inks, I would say this one for me has not been a winner, just because I like my lines to be very sharp and very like extra fine, and this seems like it's just too much of a wet ink. But obviously, you know, depending on how you like your writing, that is a good choice, because the brand is very trusted, it's a reputable brand, the quality of the ink itself is great. And I do actually have like this brush pen, so it's like a fountain pen brush pen. I would fill it in exactly the same way. It's got an inbuilt piston, but instead of a fountain pen nib, it's a brush, and so you could, you know, do sort of brush lettering with it. Yeah, very, very beautiful to write with. I'm still kind of mastering my calligraphy lettering sort of thing, but I could, you know, fill this with the black ink. So it's not that I'm not going to use it, I'm just not going to use it in my fountain pens. Like I said, the Iroshizuku, this is the first color that I've purchased from of this brand, the Yamabudo. Absolutely love it. My only thing is I wish they did sort of smaller bottles. I've not been able to find in the UK smaller bottles of this. I would prefer probably the same size as this, which is 30 mils. 30 mils seems like a good size. Even less, like 20 or even 10 is okay. That way I can, you know, try out lots of different colors. Yeah, so if anybody knows where I can purchase like 20 mils of 20 or 30 mils of Iroshizuku ink, please do let me know. In the UK only though. But yes, love this color, love this ink, the quality gorgeous, even though it is slightly wet. I do have a few shimmering inks, like I told you guys. You can see here on the bottom hope these are on tight. They are the sort of glittery inks. I don't, you know, you do have to kind of shake them before using them because all the particles settle at the bottom. So you can see that now it's kind of blended into the ink, but very, very beautiful to kind of write with, even if I'm not getting like the shimmer effect as such. I just love the colors. Again, I wish these came in smaller bottles, but love those. That is the Diamine Shimmer. I also have this Robert Oster one in the Silent Night, which is like a sort of a muted blue grey kind of ink. It is a really beautiful smooth ink to write with. It's very, very pricey, and I don't know that I purchased the best colour because it's, I don't know if I have any of my pens inked with this, but let me kind of just do a dip test and show you. So I don't actually have any of these pens, dip pens, but you can get like these beautiful glass pens with just a little glass nib, and you dip it into the ink and then you would just write with it. Yeah, I don't actually have any of those, but that's a great option as well if you don't want to fill at all. So you can see it's a very sort of pale grey. It almost feels like something is fading. So not probably the best colour that I could have gone for, but I do like the quality of the ink. So yeah, I will see if I can find sort of other colours in that ink. And then I have several of these. These are just some of my favourite colours. I love, love, love the cerise, which is the one I showed you here in the Delight Extra Fine, the pink one. Beautiful colour. This is the aqua blue, the violet. I will show you. I'm pretty sure I have that inked somewhere as well. And like I said, I've got several different colors of these. I love these. They're just, yeah, gorgeous inks, very pigmented, and they write beautifully. And then I do have some of these that I purchased as from AliExpress. Horrible, would not recommend. They are like very watery, they kind of spread. Yeah, I mean, luckily they're just so tiny that it's not made, you know, not going to put me out of pocket. But I'm glad I was able to test them out. I mean, with this one, it's not so bad, but the ones that I have inked up, it was just terrible. I just didn't like them at all. That was the brown, and then this is the orange. I kind of bought them for autumn, but they didn't come in time. This is probably not the best. So this orange is not even that like vibrant. It's kind of like a dull orange. But yeah, you know, you kind of do get what you paid for. And if you pay like, you know, a couple of quid for tiny bottles on AliExpress, you're not going to get the best quality ink. So yeah, in terms of inks, those are my favorite inks. I will show you my favorite pens now. So having said all of that, oops, if I was to put my fountain pens into like order of preference, I've already told you guys my D-like fountain pens would be number 1. Love that one. And I do change out the colors, so I don't always have that one inked in pink and this one inked in blue. I do have them, you know, various colors. Let me just make sure I'm in frame there. Then number 2 is definitely going to be my Lamy Safari. Just love it so much. It's like my oldest sort of fountain pen where it didn't just cost a couple of quid. It was my first sort of, yeah, like I think it was £30 or £40. It wasn't much, but I had only been buying like sort of very inexpensive pens for a while. Actually, this one, nope, I thought it was inked up. This is, like I said, a couple of quid on Amazon. I don't think they sell this exact one anymore, but I actually do really like this pen a lot. I'm not, this one I think had the brown in it. Oops. Let me grab a tissue. So yeah, this had that brown from AliExpress. I don't think it's writing anymore, but it's a very smooth pen, not bad at all for, you know, the price. Okay, so let's see. We've done favorite pens is the D-Likes, then the Lamy Safari, then I would probably say, I feel like I should like my Vanishing Point a bit more than I do because of the price I paid for it. And I actually bought the fine nib because I couldn't find the extra fine anywhere. And it was not fine at all for me. It was more like a medium nib. And so I actually purchased this extra fine nib from Miss Lucy Plans, Lucy on Instagram. And unfortunately, the nibs for these pens cost almost as much as buying a new pen. So I am going to have to sell my other one because otherwise the fine nib that I have is just kind of sitting there. And I think I paid like 80, 50, 60, I don't know, something like that. Something very expensive just for this extra fine nib, which is how much nibs cost. So I'm going to sell my fine one. But yeah, I do feel like I should like this pen a bit more because I invested. Yeah, because I spent a lot of money buying this. But I would say, unfortunately, I do prefer my Twisby pens a bit more. So they would come in at number 3, I would say, would be my Twisby pens. Love, love, love all of them. Do I need all of them? Absolutely not. I have considered like selling some of these ones and just keeping like maybe one color. I was thinking probably just to keep the pink and sell the rest, but I'm just not somebody who sells things that often. I either give them away or give them to family or friends or do a giveaway or whatever. I just, yeah, but I do kind of really love them all at the moment. And I do keep these inked up because I do use them regularly, you know, for just journaling and things like that. So they would be my 3rd favorites, and then I might say sort of this one is my 4th favorite, and then I would say my Correcto Sport pens, but that's just, you know, at the moment that's how I kind of like them. That does change, except I think my favorites have consistently been these D-Like pens. I will try and find a link to AliExpress for where I purchased them, but sometimes the seller that I have bought them from doesn't sell them, so you can just, you know, search D-Like fountain pens. It's literally D-Like. Hey guys, so while I was editing this, I realized that I actually do have a refill for these Pilot Kikuno pens. They are this Pilot Namiki ones. I just was putting them in the wrong way, so whereas I thought this was the direction they go in, they actually fit in that way. I was actually just looking at an older video of me inking it up, so I will show you how this one writes as well. This is a really great beginner fountain pen, like I said, because it's very inexpensive. It is just, I think it's like a £10 fountain pen. Very, very sharp and clean sort of edges. Beautiful to write with, and you can get them in different cap colors. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is that I remembered I do actually have a syringe to refill fountain pens. So I bought this off AliExpress. It was 80 pence, and I will show you how it is used. So I will show you in this D-Like fountain pen that I have, because I can just fill it up with the same color. And I don't know if I mentioned, or maybe I forgot to mention, that you can actually buy converters for fountain pens. So, you know, you wouldn't have to necessarily use cartridges. You could buy like a converter that has the correct fitting for fountain pen. Again, you'd have to just do a bit of research and see which one fits. And also, while I remember, what I'm about to show you with the syringe, you can also do with an empty cartridge. So even though I said they are single use, it's true, but once they are finished, you could actually rinse them out, wash them out, you know, and then refill it with a syringe and reuse them like that. So yeah, I remember somebody saying that to me, maybe Simone, a long time ago, that actually you can just refill old ink cartridges. You don't have to throw those away. Now let me just put out, oops, my rag so that we don't have the same, well, if we have the same issue as last time where I knocked it over, I'm kind of covered. So I'm using the Yamabudo Uroshizuku. I've got my little converter here, and the syringe works in the same way. As you can see, it's much more like long and thin. So if I was at the very bottom of this ink, I would still be able to refill it. Whereas with this, I might kind of struggle to get it down. So push that down. I thought it was a twisty thing, but it's not. And as I release it up, you can see it's filled up this barrel with ink. And I will just insert that in here and push the ink. And that way I'm going to get, I can fill it like completely full. So I can keep pushing till I've filled it up to the very top. And then I just put the excess back in there. And then I would wash this in the same way, just like put it in a bowl of water and suck up water and put it back down over and over again until it's cleaned. So that is a very inexpensive piece of equipment, but it's very, very handy when refilling, to make sure, especially, I think I showed you guys the Vanishing Point, the Pilot Capless. It can be quite difficult to fill this. So actually, while I'm here, I will fill this as well, because I'm pretty sure this is inked with the same ink. And I actually bought this syringe for this this pen, and I will just make sure that is filled to the brim. Okay, happy with that. Just make sure I get all of that ink out. Okay, and that can go back. And that's how to use a syringe to refill. And like I said, you could do that with an empty cartridge. You do it in exactly the same way. You just get an empty cartridge and you put ink in it, and then you just slot it into your fountain pen. So that is that. I think that's it. I think I've covered like as much as I know about fountain pens. Like I said, I do apologize if you know, I've missed things out or left things out. I'm definitely not a pro. Please don't like get annoyed if, you know, you are a fountain pen like professional. I put my hands up. I'm definitely not. I'm just sharing, you know, my sort of favorite inks and pens with Stalogy, and sort of tools and tricks that I've picked up along the way. So yeah, I hope that was kind of helpful. Sorry for all the mess, but I'm just giving you a real life look into what you know, filling fountain pens and cleaning fountain pens looks like. It is pretty messy business, as you can see. I know some people wear gloves when they do it. Some people like to wash all their fountain pens in one go, and then they'll sit and it's like I said, it's almost like a ritual to kind of fill them all. And for me, I kind of just do it on the go. Whenever one runs out, I'll kind of, if I'm just refilling the same color, I'm pretty naughty and I don't actually wash it out, even though you're supposed to at least give it a rinse through. I will just kind of refill it in the same color. But if I'm changing out colors, definitely I will spend ages cleaning. But yeah, I'm sorry if I missed out any questions you guys had. If there's anything I didn't cover, please leave it in the comments below and I will do my best to help. Otherwise, I'm sure there are lots of other people in this community lots of people who are watching this video that will be able to help you, hopefully. But check out Simone's channel. I will leave a link to her channel. She does a lot of like fountain pen. She uses a lot of fountain pens. There's a lady over on Instagram called Jane Campbell. She is like the queen of fountain pens. I don't think there's a fountain pen she doesn't own. So she does like lots of different video posts on, you know, fountain pens, inks, different combinations. I'm always getting, you know, sort of inspiration from her about which color of ink I want to buy next. So I would leave a link to her Instagram channel, her Instagram page below as well. Lovely lady, and just, yeah, she has like the most envious collection of fountain pens ever. But yeah, I hope in terms of, you know, Stalogy paper, that was kind of helpful. You can see here, even where I smeared it, there is definitely, you know, shadowing and ghosting, whatever you want to call it, but no bleed through. Even when you saw these like drops, like big drops of ink fell on the page, it hasn't come through to the other side, you know, it didn't leak through the paper. And that's kind of the same with the Hobonichi paper too, which is why I think, you know, a lot of people do love to use fountain pens in the Hobonichi and Stalogy. Yeah, so that's kind of it. Like I said, the only thing about it is that you do have to let them dry, because otherwise they kind of do smear. And check out, you know, which combination of pen and ink works best for you in terms of your, how much, you know, pressure you use. But certain inks and pens are known as wet, you know, sort of wetter pens and inks. So they will take longer to dry. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time. Bye.